Oh, it counts down too. I
Oh,
like
good.
that. I like the countdown.
Welcome in. Welcome into the second episode of Three Men on the Record. Um, it was a fun show last week. We've learned a few things. Hopefully we'll each week we'll get a little bit better on how we start the show because last week it was pretty funny. If you watched the live, we are just chatting away with no background. What is the feedback? Sorry, that just happened. All right, so it is up and running on the thing. Let's hit the chat button. Um, so welcome in, guys. I don't know who was in here yet, but so we're let's see what anything happened great this anything fun happened with you guys this week. I think a little recap. Hey, Joe, welcome
Good
in.
evening, Joe.
So we've had some fun going through. We all have we've all been assigned 4 records to talk about, and the experience is kind of cool. Refocusing, re-listening to stuff, and doing research on the same thing. Um, because some of the titles from that I've been listening to this week, it's been amazing, um, and it's been a lot of fun. So hopefully, when you guys go and watch our show, that you will kind of join in and you know recap the records we present to you and
Hello,
tell us.
Terry.
Hey, Terry, um, and also Joe, let us know when it's your bedtime because I know around 9 o'clock your bedtime.
We'll get all the good stuff in before Joe has to go to bed.
Yeah.
Sean, you asked this week. I think that's what I was doing this week too, trying to figure out how to get this organized the right way as far as me prepping for the show. And I did the same thing. I definitely listened to a lot more of the albums. The fact that we cut them down to only 4 piece this show made it completely possible. A couple of them got multiple listens, and so yeah, I feel like it's the right pace. I feel. I'll let the uh, audience decide, but I feel better prepared this week, even.
I
Noise.
feel I'm closer to being better prepared. Um, and some ways to come across how to like the research I've been doing is a little different than last time. Um, Now it's really just taking notes on some of the stuff that I've listened to.
Yeah, I was born unprepared, but I'm here. I'm here, right? That's what counts.
Have you guys picked up any new records or anything for yourselves?
Yes. Yes. Would you like to see a new acquisition?
Sure. Hey guys, Van Halen Freak here. Hey Van Halen Freak, welcome in.
All right, this is a good joke, right? I opened a package I was very much anticipating because I've been looking for an album, and I got to call out our friends, the friends of the show. They're Johnny and Retta for their sense of humor of including a
The damn
David
Hoff.
Hasselhoff
It's like a
record.
love belt.
Yeah, in my package. So appropriate that it came from Germany because he
huge.
is huge
Yeah.
in Germany. All right, but really, my key acquisition this week was I've been looking for a very clean copy of this record. It only came out as a record
Yep.
club in the U.S. and they're a little more available in Europe. So Johnny and Retta were good enough to secure one for me. So that's my featured acquisition of the
So
week.
Van Halen Freak, your name is the Zeppelin 71 on here, and you're the Van Halen Freak over there.
It sounds like he has an
I know.
identity crisis.
Rather than
What to choose?
hardcore and he's buying like
Zeppelin, Van Halen.
Manilow.
The Gonzinator new acquisition would be a little Buckingham Nicks. Finally got the Rhino Hi-Fi. So very excited to open this up. I do have the original press of this, and it sounds excellent, but I'm very excited to take this out of the shrink and give it a play and really do a shootout between the two. And I actually think the Rhino, we'll see. It might kick its butt. We'll see.
I don't think I've really gotten anything new this week. Although I'm working on a future show of the worst covers ever made, and
You can make it.
Yeah. So I didn't really pick up anything new, although I did have to pick up another one of these. Where mine went, I don't know.
That's hard to find. That album.
Sean, it
Sean.
might be right
Right.
behind you.
It probably is, knowing me. Um, but it's usually it's over time. Someone asks for it and I don't have it, I'll go upstairs and grab it. And I'm going to buy another one. I'll just sell them this one, and then I never replace them. But I had to get that one, so that's a new arrival. I
Joe,
also got, this is my favorite new arrival. This, most people won't know what this is, but this is the promo that came with Warren Zevon's Excitable Boy.
really?
Comes with a silver bullet
Wow.
and that right there. And
That
there's the
is
silver
pretty
bullet.
cool.
It also comes with a button that says "Ahoo," which I don't own yet. And I'm also waiting for a white label Japanese press at some point coming soon.
That's really cool, Sean. What's
Angela,
up,
how you
Angela?
Hey, Angela.
doing? So
So, Joe, I wanted to answer your question. You think that's overpriced? I don't. I think the original press, because they didn't, to my knowledge, they repressed it one time, and I think that was reissued, I think, in 1978, if I'm not mistaken. So it only was pressed twice until the new Rhino Hi-Fi. But the Japanese press is extremely expensive. 3 Hip Hop, yeah.
Joe,
I think they're both too expensive. The Rhino is perfect price.
Yeah, I mean, it's about 40, 45 bucks.
Yep.
all right. So one of the other things we were talking about earlier is, and we want to know from you, do you know the top 3 selling artists of the 80s?
No cheating.
No cheating.
No Google
No
machines.
Google machines, people.
Who are the 3 top selling artists of the 1980s? Go. No cheating.
And
Come
you
on,
can think
get
about it,
engaged.
and
Remember,
about
we
it.
said the show is about you guys
mean-
engaging. So think about it. Think about it.
Some of you guys
Joe's
remember.
over there right now just Google machining like a
Get his
boss.
calculator out and the ribbon's running and keep going.
Just plop them in the chat when
Yeah.
you have guesses.
Angela,
All right.
that's correct.
Yes.
That is 1.
Yep.
Jeremy, close, in the vicinity, in the top 10, but not top 3. Jim with
All right. We got
that's
the
it,
second.
number 2.
So Michael J. and
And
Madonna.
technically,
Correct. Who's the third?
Scott
one?
and I, man, Scott and I went down a rabbit hole on this one.
They were crunching the numbers.
Technically, Madonna is number 3. MJ is number 1. Who is number 2?
Yeah. So there's somebody in between. Somebody in between.
Think about it, guys. You know,
Somebody will get it. Somebody will get it.
Not Def
Not-
Leppard, though. I
nope.
like
Good
I
guess,
like the
Chad, but not
guess.
Def Leppard.
I like
That's a great guess. Yeah.
no Joe.
Nope.
Come on, Jim. Where are you?
So we're going to give the chat
let's-
10 more seconds, and then we're going to reveal it, and you're going to go, of
I'm going to
course.
say it right now. 1 hint. He was everywhere in the 1980s.
Everywhere. Soundtracks and like
movie.
if you were alive, you
Jim,
couldn't get away from
he was everywhere.
he. Although Whitney Houston's a
Not
good
Prince,
guess. Good guess.
Angela.
Not Prince.
I think
Nope.
he was like number 6 or 7 with like 80 something million. Not Lionel, Terry.
Yep.
I like the guess though.
All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2,
Close,
1.
Jim.
Who is it, Jake?
You want me to say it?
Who is it, Jake?
Phil Collins. Number 2,
Phil Collins,
He was
people.
in
more
everything,
everywhere
right?
than Phil Collins. Phil was everywhere from Duke from 1980. Loggins.
Well, he also did duets on that weren't necessarily his.
He was
album.
everywhere,
The Buster soundtrack. There's a lot of good stuff on that.
which I have.
Against All Odds soundtrack.
Groovy
he was
Kind of
on that.
Love.
Yep. Yeah, he had 2 soundtrack hits in the 80s. He had Genesis albums that were a couple of them were Diamond. He had his solo records, all fell in the 80s.
And
So
this is before he did the Disney,
killing it.
the Disney.
Cheryl had it. Oh, Cheryl, I'm sorry. Did we miss her?
I see
say
Cheryl.
Phil
She
Collins?
said Bruce. I see Bruce. She says more everywhere than Phil Collins. That was announced, I think, after we said it. So she might have been typing it when we said it.
Yeah, I think she got it in before, but we said it. All right, so
we'll give it to
good
Cheryl.
Job. We're going to give you the win. We'll give you the win on that one. Good job. We tried to stump you a little bit because we thought even we were a little bit surprised, but after we thought about it, oh yeah.
No, but
sure,
anyone have
Phil
some?
Collins. He was
anyone
everywhere.
doing any? Going to see any tours? Anyone got anything scheduled for artists that they need to go see? I know the Who just finished up, didn't they? Oh, we lost Gonzo. Oh, he's back.
Here he's coming back.
I didn't hit anything. I think my internet just went out.
Oh yeah. Because the Who, they finished up their tour in California. I think they just finished up their tour. But after listening to my artist this week, if you get an opportunity to see some of these people, let's do it. Definitely do it, because it's getting you're not going to see Bruce and them touring much longer. Get out there, go see live music. Maybe if they're really old, buy tickets the day of. Well, because my friend got the Who tickets and they canceled it last minute and rescheduled for the next week, and they couldn't go. Couldn't get rid of the tickets, and they got stuck for $800. That's why I always tell them day of. Day of, you can find some amazing deals. I saw McCartney for $20, less than $20 on day of tickets once. So if they're in town, look it up. You might be going that night. You never know. All right. So what do we got next? Is we kind of went over the new releases. Well, what new acquisitions? I don't really have anything for new releases, except I don't know if we talked about last week that Cranberries MTV Unplugged's coming out, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah, we did not talk about that, but it is coming out.
I'm trying for anything else. That was the big thing that stuck out to me, because you got Zombie, Linger. I think there's only 7 or 8 songs. It wasn't a huge set, but it was a great MTV Live.
Yeah.
And if you like collecting that stuff, there you go. Also, another release that's coming out soon is Hamilton Hot Shots. So for those of you who don't want to spend $80 on the Hamilton soundtrack, which is a great show, they have a single LP set coming out. I guess it's not a setup, it's only one. So you have the top songs. So that's good if you don't want to spend the big money and you like Hamilton. I'm trying to think of anything else that's coming up. I think that's all the ones I can remember this week that's coming out soon. I think we already covered the Pink Floyd last week. So
yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff like I heard Joe talk on his video talking about the Black Keys have a new album out, and nobody's been talking about that. It's pretty good. Bryan Adams actually has.
And you did talk about Porno for Pyros, I think, last week.
That reissue is coming in October. A bunch of great reissues are coming in October. So
yeah,
Lamb 51st tomorrow. Yeah,
we might as well get into the studio albums, because we're gonna be talking about Neil Young after this, and the top 5 Neil Young albums. And last week we talked about Van Halen in the top 5, and there's still some rattling going back and forth on that one. We're giving Scott a little heat for not putting 1984 as number 1.
Yeah. Well, I give you guys the right answers. What you do with them, that's up to you.
All right. So I really enjoyed the albums. I don't even know what they have for albums. I didn't look good what they're showing for albums, because I kind of want to be surprised. Good.
Stacey.
Hey, Stacey.
This was a big week for music on vinyl. What did they come out with on music on vinyl? Put it in the chat. Let us know, and we'll share it with everyone. So, who wants to go first with their 500 essential studio albums? Each one of us today will have 4. Last week, if you remember, we both all had 8, and the show ran a little long. So we've cut that down a little bit. It'll take a little bit longer to go through all of them, but now we can spend a little bit more time and not being stressed about not being able to get all the information that we've accrued from listening or watching our albums. Jake, do you want to go first?
I can start it off. Absolutely.
Go
I'd be
ahead.
happy to. So I think I'm going to start it off with probably one of my favorite albums of the 1990s. And that would be The Counting Crows, August and Everything After. September 14th, 1993, y'all. This was probably the number one CD I had in my 5-disc stereo player at the time, along with Soundgarden Super Unknown, Pearl Jam 10, and Versus. Counting Crows was on the first disc. And what I loved about this is I'm a huge Van Morrison fan. And the first time I ever heard Adam Duritz sing, he just brought like all the love and affinity that I had for Van Morrison back to the forefront. He was kind of like the new man, the new Van Morrison of the 90s. And what I loved about it, right, is that everybody knows Mr. Jones. I think that was really the song that kind of, catapulted them. But people don't realize that this album had 11 songs. 8 of those 11, and Scott and I had a long discussion about this. 8 of those 11 songs were, as I like to say, absolute bangers. But we can go with some of the staples. We can go with Mr. Jones, which actually was top 40 on the Billboard Hot 100. And The Rain King, which actually reached number 2 on the Modern Rock tracks. It was number 27 on the Billboard Hot 100. A Long December, and then one of my favorite all-time intros to an album would have been Round Here. Probably one of my favorite songs. And of course, it ends off wonderfully with The Murder of One. But this sold about 10 million copies worldwide. And what not a better way to start it out than this particular record. It's probably one of my all-time faves. I can listen to it every day and never get tired of it. And what not a great way to open up the 90s with that bad boy.
No,
you don't have it, you gotta get it.
What would you say to the critics that say that he sounds too whiny?
If it's you being one of the critics,
I've only heard
Sean say it too. I think that he is, I think he probably is one of the top singer-songwriters of a band of the 90s. I don't think anyone had a voice, just a completely different sound. You're coming from grunge, you're coming from Nirvana, you're coming from Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, all the Seattle bands, right? And then here you go with a band coming out of LA, a guy that used to bartend at the Viper Room, right?
I'll take it even further than that, Jake. I'll say he's the most gifted male lyricist of the past 2 decades. I'm not going to
disagree with that statement. I'm in 100%.
His lyrics are brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah. So that's my start off.
Nice.
Good job,
Thank
Jake.
you.
We'll let Scott go next.
Okay. You switch me over, Sean. All right. I thought I'd just start with the surprise right away here. So I'm going Lana Del Rey. Norman freaking Rockwell. I cleaned it up for YouTube. But I think people, the first show I said I was a big Lana Del Rey fan. It's just huge. Like she is on my streaming service, my most played artist. And my wife can attest, I do listen to her a lot, sometimes excessively. But this album right here, if I was looking to get somebody into an album that maybe didn't know anything about Lana, this is the one I would pick. I know a lot of people might say the Born to Die, because it had, that was big hits, the kind of the debut of Lana Del Rey. But I think this one, you could get into this record if you were like maybe even a prog or a Pink Floyd fan, because it's got a lot of soundscape to it. There's a lot going on in the songs. Sometimes they're slow, and you can listen and try to figure out what instrument it is that, what are they doing. So this came out in August 30th, 2019. So this is so far the most recent album to make the list is this one. It was produced by Jack Antonoff, and it definitely has the Jack Antonoff sound to it. Jack's worked with Taylor Swift, and he's worked with the UK lady. Her name's escaping me. But he has a sound when he produces a record and co-collaborates. You can definitely hear the sound. It's all over this, and this was number 3 in the U.S. It's on the Rolling Stone top 500 albums of all time, and I would agree with that. I didn't always agree. I don't always agree with Rolling Stone top 500, but this one I do agree with. And also on their 15th best album of the century. So I agree. The critics love it. It sold 1 million in the U.S., 2 million worldwide. And what I particularly really like about Lana is a lot of Taylor Swift fans really get into her lyrics and trying to dig into what they're saying. To me, Lana Del Rey is a more troubled human being, and she just lays it all out there, unfiltered, brutal. She's brutal to herself too, as she is. Maybe she has a little more cynical view of the world. But Norman Rockwell, the famous Norman Rockwell pictures are like of Americana, and I think that's why the album's called Norman F. and Rockwell. Is she's kind of breaking that down a little bit, but I still think that it is romanticizing, being young and being in California, but it's also realistic about the trouble that can come with relationships. So I know some people might snicker a little bit, but this is a serious artist, and this album right here, you need to give a chance. There's Jake talked about there was 8 songs on here, and this album is a little bloated with 14, but I'm gonna go and say there are 10 songs on here that you can definitely really enjoy. My favorite on it is a Mariner's apartment complex, which goes into Venice Bitch. Those two together are just amazing. They're back to back. I really like Cinnamon Girl. The most popular song on here is probably the remake of the Sublime song "Doing Time." It was very popular. And anyway, Lana Del Rey, check her out.
All right. The next one that I'm going to do now is an amazing album. Every song on this, I can listen to this record over and over again. And it's Born in the USA. Came out in June 4th, 1984. It was produced by John Landau, Springsteen's manager. Bruce, of course. Stevie Van Zandt had a huge part with this. Because before this album, I think they were kind of on the outs. They weren't enemies, but they weren't really interacting. But he came back and really helped Bruce fine tune this record to the level that it is. It came right after Nebraska. A matter of fact, the first song, the title of the album, was supposed to be on Nebraska as an acoustic. And instead it came out on this album as this really pop song, badass pop song. Excuse me. Because it says that song is dark. It's a dark song. It's about coming back from the Vietnam War and not really being treated poorly.
Yeah.
Sorry. And that's why a lot of times he performed it acoustically so that he could convey what the song meant. But it's one of those songs that was peppy and people kind of misinterpreted what the song's about because it sounds like such a
it sounds upbeat, but it really It really isn't when you listen to
Um,
the lyrics.
and it peaked at number 9. It ended up at being number 9 on that's where it peaked at. And you would think that would be the song that was it was actually supposed to be for a movie. Perfect timing for the cough to come back.
Mhm.
I also got Glory Days that reached number 5, Cover Me number 7, I'm on Fire. That's such a haunting title.
Which is what it's my favorite song on the album.
So embarrassing. Yeah, it was misunderstood as a patriotic anthem, but it was definitely the disenfranchisement and disillusionment of veterans. There's a story of Bruce was reading Born on the 4th of July, and he was at a hotel, and a guy came up to him in a wheelchair, and it's the guy that wrote Born on the 4th of July. And that's where Bruce really started getting into doing some events to raise money for veterans and all that stuff, and really got him aware of. Well, everyone was aware of it, but
Wasn't his name Ronnie Kovac? Was that his name?
it was Ronnie. It was Ron. I think that was his name.
Yeah, Ronnie Kovac.
And Bruce asked him if he was familiar with his music. He said no. Bruce ran to the store, got him some music, gave it to him, and they became good friends. But again, it's one of those songs that it's so exciting. And then Dancing in the Dark, holy mackerel, talking about, and that's the one that was the big hit on here, Dancing in the Dark.
Who danced with him? Everybody should know this. Who danced with him on stage?
And this was before she had a career.
That's right.
And who directed the music video? Because there's actually 2 music videos. Who directed Scarface? Dancing in the Dark was directed by
Brian De Palma?
Yeah.
Did he really? I should know that.
Yeah.
I should know that.
And this really solidified Bruce was a big name, but he wasn't when he after this album he went to a whole new status.
That's correct, Jeremy and Stacey.
And
Gurus.
Glory Days is another one that's sort of happy but yet sad. But it's such an upbeat sounding, and it's really them reminiscing and can't let go of the past a little bit.
So this was my introduction to Bruce, this particular album.
A lot of people it was. I mean, I love all his earlier stuff. But until this, it was, yeah, we know who Bruce is. He's the guy that sings about unemployed and not having a job and all that. And I call him the anti-Buffett because neither one of them have ever had a real job. And he sings about being unemployed. Buffett sings about let's go drink instead. So I call him the anti-Buffett, but and it reached number 1, so of course it did.
Oh, and
15 million copies and 30 million worldwide.
Angela, to answer your question, no, it is not. It is a reissue. I do not think they pressed August and Everything after in 1993 in the U.S. I think the originals were pressed in Brazil, and there's probably also a European press, if I remember correctly.
And in all the songs on there, Bruce won male vocal performer for Dancing in the Dark. That's what he got the biggest accolades for. And we got Courtney Cox, so we got Friends, and we got Scream, Scary Movie. So thank you, Bruce. And
well, I mean, to me, this album is on the par with Thriller. Like so many songs. I mean, how many great songs has to be on an album for No Surrender not to be a single?
I know.
I mean, that could lead off. That could lead single some albums out there. And this came out right as I was graduating. So this was my going to Myrtle Beach. So that's a 10-hour drive and back. It's the only cassette I had in the car. Played it the whole trip down, the whole trip back. By the time I got back, I could tell you every pause and breath and every lyric that Bruce sung on that album. I was blown away. I think that's the first time I was completely blown away by an album. And
it's from front to back. You go right from Nebraska, and really it's tied in with Born in the USA. Then you have, I'm on Fire, No Surrender, Bobby Jean, And it ends with My Hometown, which, if you really listen to the lyrics, that's another kind of a dark song, but it completely ties into his next album, Tunnel of Love. It has
Mhm.
that same sound, and I think My Hometown was live. I think it's a live recording on here, I believe. But it ties right into the next album, Tunnel of Love. So, and I know a lot of people say Nebraska. I love this album. I like this album more. Tell
I
us what
agree.
you think.
I think
Yeah.
what people love about Nebraska is the fact that it's so simple and dry. I mean, it's just him, an acoustic guitar and harmonica, right? It's bare.
Yeah, it was
And I
4
think
track
that's
cassette. That was how you recorded it.
and I think that's what people really dug about that, because it was completely different, obviously, than his prior albums. And it was pretty dark. And then coming into that, and I didn't get in Nebraska until I was 25 years old. I didn't listen to Nebraska until I was 25. Born in the USA was really the main Springsteen record I listened to. All the earlier Bruce, I was much older. I didn't get into him until much later in life. Pretty much, Stacy. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be Stacy, but hopefully one of us has it if it's in the 500.
Yep.
All right, so Jake, you're gonna go next for your album?
Yeah. I will. I'll start it off. We're going to keep this in the 90s. And if anyone doesn't have this record, please get it. Here's another thing that I'm going to tell you. The first record we went through with the Counting Crows, right? I didn't tell you the producer. T-Bone Burnett produced August and Everything After. You know what else he produced? He also produced this, Jim, The Wallflowers, Bringing Down the Horse, released May 21st, 1996. Now, this originally was never pressed on wax. This was only on CD when it came out in 1996. And this sold about 4 million copies in the US. But it's got the bangers that we all know, obviously. It's got One Headlight, which I think was on the Billboard charts. It got to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. 6th Avenue Heartache, again, great friends with Adam Duritz. Adam Duritz is coming in and singing the song with him. That peaked at number 1, y'all, on the Billboard Modern Rock tracks, and that got a ton of radio airplay. In fact, 6th Avenue Heartache was the first Wallflower song I heard off Bringing Down the Horse before I even heard One Headlight, because I was a huge Counting Crows fan. So, and anybody who knows Counting Crows and Adam Duritz, you hear his voice, it's immediate. You know who it is. You can't mistake it. It's also got The Difference, which was also another top 10 song. Three Marlenas it also had. But what's crazy is that they had an album, a self-titled prior to this. And it wasn't as commercially successful, but this really kind of catapulted Jakob Dylan and the band to superstardom. And I mean, it showcases all their signature blend, right? Rock, folk, their lyrics. I think Jakob Dylan is also an amazing singer-songwriter, definitely something he got from his dad. But what not? Who wouldn't feel the pressure having to come up and sing an album when your dad's Bob Dylan? Like, how hard is that to compete with, and the stresses that come with that, right? And I've always had a lot of respect for Jakob Dylan. I don't think he's really cared too much about success over the last 30 years, because they have done numerous albums since this. And I don't think any of the albums after did as well and sold as well as Bringing Down the Horse. But it did win a Grammy. It got Best Rock Performance by a Duo or Group, which was for One Headlight. And they were nominated for Best Song for the same track as well. And this was really probably my second favorite record of the 90s. And what was crazy is when it first came out, I didn't even put the two together and realize that Jakob Dylan was Bob Dylan's son. I didn't know that until obviously they really took off.
I didn't know
So
that till I liked the Wallflowers before I knew it was Bob Dylan's son.
same. And I heard the self-titled album. My favorite song on Wallflowers self-titled is Honeybee. And I remember that song. When One Headlight, 6th Avenue Heartache came out, I didn't even put the two together.
The
Until, like,
songwriting was
Avenue
so
Heartache.
much better for Bringing Down the Horse. So
yeah,
much
if you listen to both of them, if you listen to Bringing Down the Horse and you listen to self-titled, there's no comparison. You
No.
can kind of see where they're going.
Yeah.
But I have to give credit where credit's due. I think Jacob Dylan was at his peak. I think the songwriting was amazing. I think the musicianship with the band was great. And T-Bone Burnett is a genius. I mean, the stuff that man has produced over the years, it goes to show how, a producer and how important production is, especially when you're doing it and you're doing it right.
Yeah.
And what can come from that. So again, another banger of an album. I definitely recommend if you don't have it. They do have a reissue, like I said. I think this is probably a 2024 reissue. You could probably get it around $25-$30, give or take. But again, great album. Get it if you don't have it. I try to listen to it once a week. I kid you not.
It's a great one. Good pick, Jake.
Thank you.
Although I do have a question with that 6th thing. It sounds a lot like 10th Avenue Freeze Out. 6th Street Heartache. Sounds, I don't know.
Well, another, the 90s was all about like the power duos, right? You had Ed McCain and Darius Rucker with Solitude. That was a great, a great duet as well. And then of course you had Jacob Dylan and Adam Duritz. There was a lot of duets in the 90s that were, they could be up there with some of those, 80 power duets.
Cool.
Mike. So
I sing that Wallflower song out loud every time I pass a car with a headlight out. Deep tracks. Same with August and everything. So good. I agree, man. I mean, Scott and I talked about this. Like we're, the 90s. I was a child of the 80s, but a teen, going into my 20s in the 90s. And that's really where I just felt the 90s blossomed. So much good music. So many albums that I'll probably bring up and put in the top 500.
some of these are so easy conversations, right? Like Jake just says the album, Marcel the album. Oh, absolutely. Yes. I mean, it's easy choice. And I think this one, we were looking to spread we know that there's going to be in the top 500 albums from, all different decades of the past 50 years, but we tried to get them dispersed a little bit with the stuff we had on the list. So that's why you see, I think we got 5 decades or 6 decades represented tonight. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scotty, what do you got?
All right. Well, those who know me well are not going to be surprised. Oh, Sean, I think we just go ahead.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah, you can limit the forehead.
All right. So here we go. Crowded House, self-titled. And why this album? First of all, it's a great album. It's not sales of it 1.5 million in the US, 2.5 worldwide. It does contain the mega hit "Don't Dream It's Over," which I think about 8 to 10 years later, Sixpence None the Richer, Sixpence None the Richer had another top 10 hit with a remake of that song. But why this album is important to me is it's been in my life since 1986. I heard that song on the radio and I thought that is really interesting. Something about it, the sound of it really appealed to me. And you got to remember at this time, I'm hardcore Mellencamp, Bryan Adams, Bruce Springsteen, Def Leppard, Scorpions. That's my music track, and I'm heavy in that track. So I would say this album made me listen to music in a different way. And this is definitely a pop rock. So, the big star of Crowded House is Neil Finn. Neil Finn joined about halfway through Split Ends, his brother and Tim Finn in Split Ends, and it would become pretty apparent that Neil Finn was a star. So the band really wasn't big enough for all the egos, so he went out, left Split Ends after some classic songs, from Split Ends that he did, and formed Crowded House, 3-man band. And this album right here, so it had "Don't Dream It's Over." Everybody's heard that song. That was number 2 in the U.S. But the singles on it, "World Where You Live," which is a song Eddie Vedder often covers in concert. Now Pearl Jam does a lot of covers. "World Where You Live" is one of the songs that they cover in concert. The lead single, which was kind of a mistake because it didn't chart, "Mean to Me," is a great song, but they probably should have let off with "Don't Dream It's Over." And "Something So Strong" was a number 7 hit. It followed "Don't Dream It's Over" in the U.S. And "Now We're Getting Somewhere" was actually charted in other countries, but it was not a single in the U.S. So looking on here, we talk about how many songs are really great listens. All the singles are great. And "Hole in the River," "I'll Walk Away," "Tombstone." I don't know that there's a unlistenable song on this album. And so if you want some smooth Hammond B3 organ infused harmonies, oh my God, the harmonies on Crowded House are so beautiful. So this has got to be in your collection. Crowded House, self-titled.
All right.
That record looks pretty familiar.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Everybody's going to guess, but just guess what I just did.
You pull off the shrink. You do that.
I pulled
Wow.
the shrink off.
All right. So
Wow.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited to be able to present this one. I'm a very excitable boy when it comes to this record. And again, and this album is "Excitable Boy" by Warren Zevon. Which this record, Warren Zevon had a very strange career. Like this, has only sold 500,000 copies originally in the U.S. and worldwide 1 million copies. I mean, it's eclipsed that now, but he always got the critical acclaim, but never ever really translated into a huge following. He has a faithful following, but a huge following. It came out November 18th, 1978. The record is only 36 minutes long, which makes me laugh because Jackson Browne, everyone knows Jackson Browne. Jackson Browne was instrumental in getting Warren Zevon produced, issued on a vinyl. And on this one, it was Jackson Browne called up his buddy Waddy Wachtel. And if you guys don't know who Waddy Wachtel is, he was pretty much on every record in the 70s and early 80s. He's still working today. He does a lot of country stuff. He was performed on that Dolly Parton album. And Jackson Browne called him in and said, "Hey, I need some help." Because Warren Zevon will only listen to me for so long. And I think he's pretty much shut me off now. So Waddy, can you help me with Zevon? And he did. And the great thing with Jackson Browne and Waddy Wachtel, they were very in tune with how Warren's brain worked, but also the LA music scene. So when you pick up a Zevon record, it's basically like Ringo Starr and his All Stars, because you look at this and you'll see McVie and Fleetwood. Russ Kunkel was a drummer for James Taylor and many other people. I think even Jimmy Buffett. So there's 3 big songs on here. We have "Werewolves of London," which peaked at 14, "Excitable Boy" at number 51, and probably the one that's probably sung the most on covers is "Lawyers, Guns, and Money," and which wasn't originally on the album. Waddy Wachtel looked at the album and said, "You're missing songs. There's something missing," and he made Warren go back out and write 2 more songs for the album. They dropped 2 songs and added 2, and those songs were "Tenderness on the Block" and "Lawyers, Guns, and Money." So he sent Warren out. Hey, he sent him on like a vacation. Went to Hawaii. which is kind of what he did when he was trying to write some songs, and came up with Lawyers, Guns, and Money. And the funny thing about it is his father was Stumpy Zevon. He worked with Mickey Cohen. He was Mickey Cohen's best man.
Really?
So
Wow.
there's that dark background when you hear that Lawyers, Guns, and Money. Also, he was an accomplished artist. He actually was an amazing musician. He actually studied classical music under Igor Stravinsky. When you see Zevon, you're thinking classical. He could easily read and write music. But I love every song on this album, and I think you guys really should give it try a chance. It did reach number 20 in the Billboard 200, but it never took off. So Zevon was always struggling to get record companies to help him make an album or even sponsor a tour. Sometimes they'd send him off by himself. But you've heard stories of him. He was an awful drunk and alcoholic, but the people that knew him loved him and always helped him up. He had Stevie Nicks appears in albums. My buddy Linda Ronstadt also picked Hasten Down the Wind. They all seemed like they'd pick up. They knew Zevon was struggling. They'd grab one of his songs and do it on one of their albums. So he was well loved and supported by the artist and critics, but we all didn't get on board with him.
I like every song on that album too.
Yeah.
I think you could just another one. I mean, we're picking the 500 essentials here, but I think many of them you could listen to. But you didn't mention "Rolling the Headless Thompson Gunner." That's a cool song, and
yeah, you have Nighttime in the Switchyard. Well, the first song is Johnny Strikes Up the Band, which is Johnny Carson.
Yeah,
it's 100% Johnny Carson, and he was huge in the Philly area. He was definitely well supported in the Philly area. He also was dating a radio DJ, so he also got a little more support from the radio stations in Philly more than others in the country. And that Bryn Mawr concert of Werewolves is amazing. And also an Excitable Boy, there's a line where he's at the movie theater and he bites the leg of the usher. But there's also the original lyric that came out sooner. The first lyrics mentioned bit the usher in the leg like the shark, mentioning Jaws, because Jaws came out 2 years before.
Yeah.
So it somehow ties back into me somehow. It's kind of funny. But yeah, that Excitable Boy is another song that sounds so happy and wonderful. And then when you're listening to it, you're going, huh?
He had a rough childhood, didn't he?
Was his parents, they split up and divorced. His father was in the mafia. I mean, and he had to move her a lot. And he really loved being around Igor Stravinsky because his path probably would have been more classical music.
Yeah.
But then he also started his first releases in music was actually folk music. There's like a couple of 45s that came out. Sybil and I forget the whole name, but I know Rare Discs has the 45. But then he was also, because he was so good with music, he was the band leader for Donna and Phil Everly for like the 60s, late 60s, 70s. And it was Phil Everly that suggested that Warren write a funny, quirky dance song from the movie Werewolves in London. And that's where that came from. So Waddy Wachtel and Warren Zevon wrote that one night. And Crystal was great enough, Warren Zevon's wife or girlfriend at the time, wrote it down on napkins. If she didn't write it down, that song probably would never have happened. He also stole Waddy Wachtel's girlfriend.
Sounds like a nice guy.
Yeah, there's some. He was a dark. His addiction was bad, which was very unfortunate, but it happens. All right, who's next?
Would be me. Gonna pull up an album from the good old Follow Hill Boys. Now, like Scott, I wanted to grab something. I think when we always talk about top 500 albums, I think the natural progression is to look at all the hits that came, from the 60s and 70s, 80s. And this week, I wanted to focus on some of the 90s stuff because teen of the 90s, and that's what really got me into music. When I got into the 2000s, I kind of wasn't as involved. I started buying records, I think, at about 2002. And I really didn't buy a whole heck of a lot. And I think really by 2004, I was really getting into it. But I was starting out buying a lot of the stuff, that I listened to as a kid. In about 2007, there was an album that there was a song I heard on the radio. In fact, I think Johnny Rotten was live. It might not have been Johnny Rotten. I think it was Jonesy's Jukebox. I think I was listening to on the radio. And the song that was played was a song called Arizona off of an album Because of Times by Kings of Leon. And my best friend who was with me was like, "You never heard of these guys?" I'm like, "I've never heard of this band before in my life, but this song is amazing." And I went that night to Amoeba and I bought that record. I still have it. And this leads me into the album. Because of Times was pretty much the album that basically pushed them into the mainstream. I think y'all know where I'm going with this. And the album I'm talking about, Wrong Camera View.
Not familiar with that album.
Not familiar with that one. Let's see if it's this one. Here we go. Kings of Leon, Only by the Night. Y'all, this is my original 2008 copy that I got the day it came out. Stood in line at Amoeba. And I got to tell you, it's probably still my favorite record. I think Only by the Night and Because of Times are probably my two favorite Kings of Leons. I think obviously after this, moving onward, I think they became a little more arena rock, which not terrible. But this came out September 23rd, 2008. And worldwide sales, I think it exceeded about 3 million. I think they did about 1 million copies in the U.S., which you would have thought that probably by now could have been more. And I would assume that it is. But they had 3 songs, y'all, in the top 20. 3 songs in the top 20. They had Sex on Fire, which was number 1 on the Billboard Hot Modern Rock Track chart. And I think it was like number 20 on the Billboard Hot 100. Also had You Somebody, another huge hit, which I think got them a Grammy Award, if I'm not mistaken, for Record of the Year. And then Revelry, which that was, I think, number 15 on the Modern Track or Modern Rock Track chart. And then Notion. A lot of airplay on it, although I don't know if it was as big, obviously, as, Sex on Fire, You Somebody, and Revelry. But the one song, y'all, that, isn't talked about a lot. And again, this goes back to what I talked about on albums with phenomenal intros. Can anybody tell me the title track of Only by the Night? Because if you're not familiar with the record, I suggest you get it. Now, I can't remember for the life of me. What was was it HBO or Showtime? What was the vampire show with oh gosh, The English Gal? It was huge hit. I'm brain farting. I can't remember it. But someone told me originally that Closer, which is the opening track of this album, which is amazing. The rumor I heard, someone can check this for me, was that Closer originally, I think, was going to be the song played for that show. And then they ended up doing, I think, what was it? Chris Isaac, True Blood. Thank you, Jeremy. So I think Closer originally was one of the songs up for that, for the intro of that show. And I think, what was it? I think it was Chris Isaac that they ended up using.
Mm-hmm.
Bad Thing. And I could be wrong on that. I could be wrong, but my wife was huge on that show. And album
Yeah,
peaked at #1.
it was Bad Thing. That was
It was
the song.
yeah. That's if I remember correctly. And Sookie. That's all I know from the show is Sookie. And the brother was just a moron. Right? But this album really is what made their breakthrough into mainstream popularity. Because of Times got them there again, the precursor album to this. And then I still think their two prior albums to that were awesome. They were also very raw. But I think their first 4 albums with Only by the Night coming in as number 4, getting them in there, definitely one of my top albums of the 2000s, I'd say 2005, 2010. But again, the lyrics on this album was written wonderfully by Caleb and company. And that's all I got on that.
Oh, we lost Sean. We lost your mic.
Hello now. There we go.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
It rebooted. So Jake, what is the OG worth?
Believe it or not, Sean, I have
Yeah,
not
look it up.
checked. If you look at this record,
I think there is reissues. So you can get.
there are reissues. This is a 2008 original. I have played this album twice in 18 years. Well, 17 years. Because I have it downloaded.
Cool.
But you can get a reissue. I'm an OG dude, right? So if you can find a 2008 original, by all means, grab it.
All right. So now we're gonna go over to Scott, who's always looking for the best sounding version of an album.
Yeah, well, this little audience warning here: if you're triggered by Dave Matthews, you may want to step away for just a moment. So, the selection here is Dave Matthews Band Crash,
Yes, I concur.
1996.
Thank goodness.
Such a great album. I know everybody knows the song Crash Into Me, and we're going to talk about that song just a little bit. I have a perspective on it. But you have the thing about the Dave Matthews Band is they are such great instrumentalists. I mean, you got practically every instrument imaginable. It shows up on their records. Of course, they're always coming at you with 3 acoustic guitars blazing at the same time a lot. And, I think they always had a funky sound to them. And they've been criticized by some folks as not having enough hooks. And I'll tell you what, I listened to this album again today and I found it was chock full of hooks to in my mind. So Much to Say is on this record. Too Much. Along with Crash Into Me, those were the singles. Crash Into Me was a number 2 song, Grammy nominated song. So Much to Say was a top 10 Billboard song. And Too Much came in at 24 as the 3rd single. Crash Into Me, I think some people find that song is creepy. I'll say if you have one literal interpretation of the song, I can get that, somebody's peering through the window and some of the lyrics. But I will say this. I think instead, it is a song that Dave Matthews wrote about his current wife. They've been together, obviously, for a long time. And I think instead, the song is maybe a reflection of young love or better, infatuation. And the fact that it was written about his wife and heck, we've all been 16 to 21 years old. You don't think right sometimes, especially when you find somebody that you're really, as the old people say, smitten on. So maybe you rethink that song with a little bit of that knowledge. And no, it's sexy. I've always thought it had a cool appeal. But I do see a lot of people, I think predominantly people think it's a creepy song. I've never thought that. I've thought it was a beautiful song. and a song about young infatuation. So, but also on this album is some, Dave Matthews is probably one of the greatest touring bands, with a following at its peak that would rival like Grateful Dead. People would try to go to every concert on the tour. Just at their peak, they were mega popular. But some of the songs that necessarily isn't singles, but the concert staples, like Tripping Billies is on this record. Great. They play that almost every concert. Tripping Billies in there, but it's got Drive In, Drive Out, Lie in Our Graves. Number 41 is on
Which
here.
is my favorite song on the album.
Which is what?
Number 41.
Yeah. And a concert staple too. They play that all the time. So here you go, Dave Matthews. You got it's it's a modern album, so it does have 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 12 songs. You got 8 really good songs. So pick up Dave Matthews, Crash, from 1996,
Wow.
produced by Steve Lillywhite.
I was about to go, T-Bone Burnett produced that because he produced everything.
Yeah.
T-Bone Burnett produces bangers.
All right. So I only own one Dave Matthews, and I got it recently, and it's like the hits album. But I will be getting more. But
I go Under the Table and Dreaming, and I go Crash. By far my 2.
And throw in Groove Rock's King. That's a great album too. Great album.
I'm going to be honest with you, Scott. I've listened to maybe 2 songs off that album.
Jake, need to dig into it.
I will dig into it. I will give you. You know me, right? I am one of those guys. I have always. There are some exceptions to the rule, like Kings of Leon, first 4 records. I kind of stopped after Only by the Night, although I've got their later stuff, but not into it as much as really their 3rd and 4th record. I've always, for whatever reason, it's those first 3 records. Every now and then you get a 4th in there. And sometimes I get lost, and then it takes me a while to come back in and listen to a lot of the later stuff. Y'all know I'm a huge Oasis fan, right? Definitely Maybe, What's the Story, Morning Glory, and Be Here Now. Those were the 3. And a lot of people say that, Be Here Now was kind of a downward kind of go. After that album, I didn't listen to Standing on the Shoulders of Giants, Heathen Chemistry, and their later stuff until like probably after they broke up in 2009.
Well, in fairness, they don't even like some of those albums.
Look, if you were to go and listen to them, they still have, a solid 3 or 4, hits, good songs on those records, but nothing's ever going to come. So it's never going to compare to those first 2. And Be Here Now had some great songs, but again, it's hard for me sometimes to get beyond those first 3 albums. And sometimes, some of those bands got a little more rocket sauce in them, and you're able to, find more grails, if you will.
Yeah, I don't think it'll probably make the top 500, but I've told you, Jake, my favorite Dave Matthews album is Every Day.
Really?
It just fits my listening profile. I
love his solo. I love Some Devil. I think that's a great record.
So, all right, we're still in Sean's spotlight. He needs
the next one is this person started their career as a drummer on the band called Breakfast Club. Did that help you guys figure it out yet? She started as a drummer, and after that, we know her as the queen of pop, the woman who brought pop to the next level, level above all levels. And this is Madonna, self-titled. She hung out in the New York music scene. She created her first 45 single. This is before she had a record deal. Was Everybody. Her and her collaborator Stephen Bray, which I guess was a boyfriend at one point, but he was very instrumental in writing a lot of songs that Madonna did, especially in the early days. So they had that single. They were playing it, performing throughout New York, and then Sire Records decided to sign her on the record label. And the first album we got was we got this one. And this, to me, I was kind of listening to some things and trying to compare her to Taylor Swift, and the reason why was just because how how huge Madonna was. Right from the beginning, this first album sold over 5 million copies, and then 10 million copies, and reached number 8 on the Billboard 200. But it has Lucky Star, Borderline, Burning Up, I Know It, Holiday, Think of Me, Physical Attraction, and Everybody.
Bangers.
She introduced, I mean, the Madonna's style and sound was, I mean, this is one of those, what like me and Gonzo like to call roller skating records. This was huge at my time.
I
in life.
skated to a ton of Madonna.
Yeah, and this album was amazing. It was produced by Reggie Lucas and Madonna, and also Stephen Bray, who helped write a lot of her songs. I don't know where do you compare her? I mean, I know Taylor Swift is sweeping the world, but can you
So, Sean,
compare
that's a
them?
great thing that you mentioned, because Scott and I talked about this for about an hour a few days ago. And the question was, before Madonna, the queen of pop, who did we have that was bigger than Madonna? And there were two women.
Bigger
There
than
was
Madonna,
Aretha
though?
and there was Barbra Streisand. They were probably the two biggest female artists that sold a ton of records prior to Madonna. Madonna shattered the mold, man. I mean, she broke the mold.
Yeah, it's
She was the first.
and it only grew and grew and grew, and she's still impacting everyone. And her style, and she created the style, and people just fell in love with her dance pop and post disco influences. I mean, Madonna was nonstop. MTV, I
Oh
mean, they latched on
gosh.
to Madonna, and her videos, all her videos were these amazing little stories.
Angela Cher was on there as well. She was top 3 prior to.
Yeah, I was thinking like Donna Summer or something would be closest in song style though, but she was perfect for MTV. Her music videos were little stories, uh, a little controversial being a Catholic schoolgirl, and you've seen some of her content. I mean, and some of her videos, very always pushing the edge and the envelope, um, and really set a standard for all women, female performers going forth up till now. I mean, you could probably ask any female performer, who's the top person she looked up to. I bet you Madonna has to be the one they say. I can't imagine another person that would come up in someone's conversation before Madonna.
I don't either.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's just
She was
this is.
so influential to me, Sean, as a 6-year-old. I wrote Madonna a love letter
I know this is funny.
when I was 6 years old because I grew up on MTV. I watched MTV religiously when MTV was MTV, and that was music videos, MTV News, and that's it. Like that's all you got. And she was on so much that I went to my mom, and bless my mom. My mom was just such a rock star. I went up to her and I said, "Mom, I am in love with Madonna." And my mom just goes, "Well, that's just great, honey. You know what? Maybe you should write Madonna a letter." And I went, "That is phenomenal." And I ran downstairs in my drawer. The only thing I could find was a jumbo red crayon. And I professed my love to Madonna in red crayon, misspelled probably every word, wrote some letters backwards, put it in an envelope, and wrote Madonna. Went to my cluster mailbox, put it in there, no stamp. Okay, because I knew the mailman knew exactly where to take that letter. So I'm convinced that Madonna got it.
Well,
And she has it to this day.
Yeah, Whitney was it was early, mid '80s and early '90s, but but before her there was no one that big, and then Whitney
Yeah.
Houston really does give her a run for her money. But
It's a cultural impact, like
yeah,
you know,
everyone was dressing like her.
Jeremy said, the way people started dressing like her.
Big time.
I
the
see
bracelets.
even today. I'll say this even with some of the way
Those
what you see with
rubber
Taylor Swift
bracelets. Remember the
or
rubber
Miley
bracelets?
Cyrus in particular reminds me a lot of Madonna. You know, that rebel attitude, but
Yep.
you know, the being able to take on the system. You know, that's a Taylor Swift thing, right? I think Madonna kind of fostered that. She would create a lot of controversy along the way.
Madonna basically took like Pat Benatar and Joan Jett and
Mm-hmm.
basically just kind of messed that together and just went beyond that.
I'm not a big fan of pop music in general, but that's a great album. That is a great album.
I
And I like
concur.
Yes.
That's a heck of a grab, Sean.
Yeah, this is
Heck of a mention.
it's just I remember those little remember the rubber bracelets everyone was
The
wearing and
jelly bracelets, the
Yeah.
jellies.
yeah, it was crazy. And she was the one that was doing it, and then people started following her. But yeah, so that one is definitely a must-have, and it's also you really have to think about where all the other women stand, or where they would stand with or without her. Where would they be right now? Would they have gotten the recognition if she didn't come first? You know, it's when the record companies realize they can make money from an artist, they're going to start following and then looking for others to follow in
Yeah.
those footsteps. So
You
where would
mentioning
Taylor
that
Swift be
album,
without her?
you mentioning that album just makes me want to write another letter.
Don't
we'll
use crayon this time,
We'll
Jake.
have to ask her and see if she ever got that letter.
You know,
Sure,
I'm
sure.
surprised my mother never I can't remember. I told Scott this. I can't remember if my mom wrote a letter back or not. I think I would have remembered. My mom was that type of person where she would have written a response
Mm.
to where it would have just pumped me up, but I don't think it happened.
Well, she was a naughty girl. She didn't want you looking up to a naughty girl.
Well, she wasn't as naughty, then. She got naughty.
Pretty quickly, because you have that album, her next album, and then Like a Virgin was only. And when you're that popular, you're pumping them out as fast as you can.
I will tell you, I was jealous when David Carradine got to make out with her. I was very upset.
Just think about
Make out with her in the rain in a car. Very upset. That upset me greatly.
I'm going to say that was all brilliant marketing on Madonna's part. How to keep yourself in the headlines, and it was brilliant. And she had the talent to back it up.
Yeah.
She had a run of albums that are fabulous.
Music videos, movies. Marry Sean Penn.
And if I believe right, I mean, she really didn't start off till she was wasn't she like 30 at this point? I think she was older.
That's a good question. I don't really know.
How old is she now? She's like 63 now. Yeah.
So somebody Google that real quick. How old was Madonna when Self-Titled came out?
I might have, Stacy. That's very true.
Was born.
I think she's born in 1960, 62.
Oh, she's older than me.
58.
She was the middle child. So she was the middle child.
What year?
Right.
58, 60?
Yeah, I can't find it. Usually it's easy, but it's the discography, not her.
Right.
But yeah, she was 24. All right. So not as old as I thought, but I knew she was a little bit older. All right. So Jake, what do you have for this? Is your last album, I believe.
It's my last album. And I thought about this one. I prayed about this one.
1958.
Deep Thoughts by Gonzinator. And this is a record from 1975, September 12th, 1975, to be exact. And I think this particular record here is kind of my pick with regards to if someone came to me and said, listen, I really want to get into this band. What album would you really suggest I listen to introduce me to what I call greatness? And I think this record, some of you, when you see it, you may agree, you may not. I think this album probably is what gets us there. And that is Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. September 12th, 1975. What I love about this particular record is that it's completely different from everything that they had done back in their, early psychedelic days with Syd Barrett at the helm, pre-Gilmour. And then obviously when Syd Barrett kind of went crazy, they had to bring in David Gilmour to basically come in and do the guitar parts. And the thing about this is David Gilmour wasn't just some new face that came out of nowhere. He and Syd Barrett actually had known each other from a very early age. They, played guitar. They went to the same school. They hung out quite a bit. And then really more so when they kind of got in their teens. So David Gilmour was known. He was in a lot of bands, prior to joining the Floyd in 1968, which would have been his first album, which would have been Saucerful of Secrets. But this was, them kind of getting out of psychedelia and then eventually, going into metal, which takes us to Dark Side of the Moon, which was their, big hit. And Wish You Were Here was kind of a different take, right? They just had been touring Dark Side of the Moon for probably about 2 years, give or take. And now we're back in the studio. And I think around this time is when you really start to see Roger Waters kind of slowly kind of taking the reins control-wise with regard to concepts, with regards to lyrics and kind of where they're wanting to go. He and Gilmour really clashed a lot. And, the crazy thing is I kind of look at their relationship as fire and ice because it's exactly that. Roger Waters was the genius behind Pink Floyd. David Gilmour was the sound of Pink Floyd, right? He was the voice. He pretty much sang the bulk of the songs. Technically, David Gilmour pretty much was their lead singer with collaborations from Richard Wright here and then. And, when we start getting into later albums, we start to see that Roger Waters, slowly starting to kind of put his influence in. And this album really, if you're familiar with Floyd, I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan. A lot of what Roger Waters wrote about, he wrote about Syd Barrett. A lot of his songs had to do with Syd Barrett because he loved him and admired him, looked up to him, even though he was a few years younger than Roger Waters. But I think the tragic loss mentally really affected him. And a lot of what he wrote on Dark Side of the Moon had to do with that. A lot of what he wrote on Wish You Were Here, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, has everything to do with Syd Barrett. And of course, everybody knows, if you're familiar with Pink Floyd, they had not seen Syd Barrett in several years from the last time they left him, right? And them leaving Syd Barrett, they were going to a gig one night. And they were driving to a gig and someone said, should we go pick up Syd? And they were like, nah. And they just left. They basically kind of terminated that. Richard Wright would make statements because Richard Wright lived with him at a time. And he would say, hey, I'm going to go pick up some cigarettes. Richard Wright would leave, meet the band, and they'd go play. And they would leave Syd Barrett. So they basically just, were like, we got to move on. So kind of going into this, there was still a lot of that missing and angst. And of course, Syd Barrett just shows up. He's 50 pounds overweight, shaved head, shaved eyebrows. Nobody recognized him in the studio when he came in when they were making this record. And eventually, after a while, they kind of discovered that it was him. And they lost it. Like, they broke down and cried because of just how different his appearance was. And of course, Wish You Were Here, obviously huge part of missing Syd Barrett and wishing that, you know, his creative spunk that they all loved about him was there, and obviously was gone. But this album is a little different than Dark Side. This album kind of gives you the best of all worlds. This is not your quote unquote prog, which a lot of people tend to put Pink Floyd as a prog band. I've never considered Floyd prog. Yeah, they play long songs, and some of them are over 10, 15 minutes long, but I've never really considered them prog. Like, if I look at Pink Floyd and I look at Yes, I consider Yes prog. Floyd, I never have. But, you know, this was really kind of, I guess you could say, toning it down a bit from that. Obviously, it had the hits Wish You Were Here. It was released as a single, and it was only a top 40 hit in the U.S., y'all, originally. And then, of course, it turned out to be one of their most iconic songs of all time. You know, it's probably one of their anthems, if you will. Have a Cigar, also released as a single, and I think that was probably within the top 50 on the Billboard Hot 100. Now, I got a question for you guys, because a lot of you probably think Roger Waters sang this song, and that song is Have a Cigar. Do any of you know who sang that song?
I do.
Who?
Roy Harper.
There you go. Correct. Now, the reason why Roy Harper sang on this track was because Roger Waters tried to sing it, didn't like it. David Gilmour sang on it, and there are takes of David Gilmour singing it, and I've heard it, and it's horrible. It's actually, it's not really good. And they were friends with Roy Harper, and they had Roy Harper come in, and he is just very charismatic. He's just full of energy, and that is his voice. Y'all, I'm going to be honest with you. For 15 years, I thought Roger Waters sang the song until I was probably about 21. And then I realized that it wasn't him. So that's a really cool thing. And there's a lot of stuff back and forth on that song. Roger Waters didn't like Roy Harper's version. David Gilmour did. And this song was really about Roger Waters' distaste of the music industry. He just really wasn't into it.
Jake, rock bands never write songs like
right?
that, do they?
Right? He really just was not, he was not, you know, with the game. He just really, really hated it. And I think a lot of artists, you know, as they really are coming into their own, right, they all realize all the record deals that these guys sign, most likely, probably 80, 90% of the time, the artists got screwed over by the record companies, right? So, but again, Wish You Were Here, obviously, Shine on Your Crazy Diamond. My favorite song on the album, believe it or not, is Welcome to the Machine. And I wish David Gilmour would sing that some point in time. I don't think he has performed that song since the 80s. And that was probably my favorite of all of them. But again, it received widespread acclaim for critics. They praised its lyrical depth and music complexity, like I think everybody did with Pink Floyd. It has been recognized as one of the greatest albums. Now, all of you who know me know that Animals has always been my favorite. But if I had to choose an album that was most complete, I would probably give you two. And I would probably give you Wish You Were Here, and I would probably give you Dark Side of the Moon. I love Animals. I love The Wall. But The Wall has a lot of bits, you know, connecting other bits to, you know, a few hits. But Wish You Were Here was probably the most complete album besides Dark Side. And I think it was probably the last album where they all pretty much got along and enjoyed making the record. Richard Wright has gone on record saying it was his favorite album and probably the best sounding album that they ever did. And I think David Gilmour has even gone and said the same. And then, of course, you've got the amazing album cover. Some of you may be familiar with Storm Thorgerson. He is an iconic record cover, artist. All the awesome covers of the 60s, 70s, some 80s, probably even in the 90s. Storm is a part of all of that. And, they did this iconic Burning Man photo shoot, which again, all of that you see here and the photos within it, they all have a theme to it, right? And it's absence. Absence is the theme, right? You've got a man who's burning, absence of pain, right? Not knowing that he's on fire. If you open the album cover, you've got someone diving into sand, which is absent of water, right? So absence was a big theme on that. And again, a lot of it played into Roger Waters.
Mm-hmm.
So that pretty much goes on my 75-hour rant on Wish You Were Here, because I am a diehard Floyd fan. I've always kind of geeked out just on a lot of the behind the scenes stuff and the story. And that's one great thing about Pink Floyd, the stories behind the making of the album and what, each band member was going through during that, that time frame. So I would say this album is the one that I would recommend anyone getting into Pink Floyd. If you told me what album to start with, I would ease you into Wish You Were Here because it's got the best of all worlds. And then from there, we would go to Dark Side of the Moon onward.
That's what we talked about, Jake. It's
That's
like
right.
The first one, Pink Floyd will have more albums on this list for sure. But if we were saying, how do we get people into Pink Floyd? Well, Wish You Were Here is definitely a gateway. I don't know anybody that hears and knows that song doesn't like it. But that album has a little bit of everything else they do on it. Welcome to the Machine has a little bit of Dark Side of the Moon sound. You got the Shine On Crazy Diamond, which is more like Animals type, like the songs go on forever.
Yeah.
And then have a cigar that could have been on the wall. If it fit the theme,
and it had a rock, it had kind of, it had a rock and roll kind of feel to it, right? So it had a little bit of rock and roll, which I liked, with a lot of their traditional sounding stuff. And then a lot of, their long, instrumentals.
Yeah.
And iconic riffs. So it's got a little bit of everything. But yeah, I mean, when you and I asked that question simultaneously, I mean, we both said it was instantaneous. It was, Wish You Were Here. That would be the one.
Yeah. And we're not even saying it's the best Floyd album. It would definitely be the one if somebody said, hey, I'm not into Pink Floyd. Which should I listen to? Wish You Were Here. Go listen to that. If you don't like it, you're probably not going to like Floyd. If you like it, then there's a lot more to explore.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I definitely think Wish You Were Here by far is one of their most like, if there was an anthem, right? If there was an anthem song, Wish You Were Here would probably be their anthem song. And that's just my opinion. I could, you could say I'm wrong on that. It's cool because they've got plenty of hits. Some may say Comfortably Numb. I put Comfortably Numb right there with Wish You Were Here.
Jake, I love nothing more than telling you you're wrong, but I'm going to tell you you're right, my friend, on this.
Thanks very much. I'm going to pat myself in the back right there.
And the good news is that it's getting a major reissue.
Yeah.
So if you don't have it.
Well, I showed you, right? You saw, this is a 1975 Japanese press that I have, but this is the 2018 remaster that's, got the blue shrink around it. And the remasters, y'all, listen, if you don't want to spend, $50, all the way up to $250, which would be the Japanese press, the complete Japanese press of Wish You Were Here, you can get these remasters for like $25 to $45, and the remasters sound amazing.
Pink Floyd has done amazing jobs with those.
So. I concur.
They are definitely the remasters are worth buying, and you can go from there. If you end up being a big Pink Floyd fan, then you can pursue the more collectible records if you want. All right. Well, am I next, Sean?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess we're ending this round with some really big records. Wish you were here. So I'm going to take one, and I'm going to give you what some people might say is the greatest album of all time. Uh-oh. What is that? Sticky Finger,
Ta!
Rolling Stones.
Functioning Zipper, I take it. Yes.
Yes, Functioning Zipper. Although that is a replica Obi. This is my personal copy of the Japanese press. OG. This is the
Bangers.
OG press. So, I wanted to take a look. Why? And I'm just not going to throw that out there every episode. This has got to be in the running for greatest album ever. I mean, I believe that. I mean, I'm a big fan of Rumors. I'm a big fan of Born in the USA. This is personal opinion, but this is in there. I got so excited listening to this twice today. The second time I listened, I had to text Sean and Jake and say, all right, bitch is just, I'm melting the rafters over here at the house, I had it loud. So let's talk a little bit about this album. So this is the, I showed the cover, has a functional zipper. The album cover won awards. It was awarded a Lifetime Grammy, that cover itself. It's an Andy Warhol design. So
Is it? I didn't know that. Wow.
yeah, and you got to be careful. Actually, this album, I have a piece of Lexan that goes over it, so I don't scratch the record next to it in the thing. So, and this is the first album with Mick Taylor on guitar, replacing Brian Jones. So they really came out strong. They recorded the album, a lot of it in '69 in Alabama. It didn't come out till, let me see, it came out in April of '71. So they spent a while making this album. They were fighting with the record company about getting out of, I guess they were going from London to whatever that is they're on now, Rolling Stone Records or something. But this album starts out, first song, Brown Sugar, #1 song in UK and the US, iconic song. And
amazing intro song to an album.
yes, amazing. And then it goes into the mid-tempo bluesy grind of Sway, which Mick Taylor being on board for the first time has both guitar solos in that. Also has a bottleneck steel guitar in Sway. So I'm thinking Joe Williamson is a big fan of the song Sway. Then into the beautiful Wild Horses. I'm not always thumbs up on some of the Stones ballady slow songs, but Wild Horses is absolutely beautiful. And actually today I was listening to the high resolution digital file of this.
Yeah.
And those acoustic guitars in Wild Horses sounded so amazing. So amazing. So then you go into the more upbeat bluesy, Can You Hear Me Knocking, blues raunchy. Gotta Move, another blues infused song. And then it goes into the hidden gem on the album. Not hidden, everybody knows the song, Bitch. But as you get into this song, at 57 seconds, the horns come in and it blows your mind. Like, okay, the song was great. Then they hit me with those horns on the chorus. Sold. It might be my favorite Rolling Stone song of all time. It's a great song. And then they go straight up. This is like maybe being down at Muscle Shoals in Alabama. They go and they're big fans of traditional blues, but they got a little Delta blues here. I got the blues, at least their version of it. The iconic song that they wrote with Maureen Faithfull, Sister Morphine. And then we got their version of they were fans of American country too, and Dead Flowers is the next song. So now we are 9 songs in. We don't have a dud yet, and then we're going to end it with the kind of epic opus Moonlight Mile, which has strings on it. So we get 10 songs in. We're 10 for 10. This is, and that's what in my mind makes this a contender for the greatest record ever done.
That takes guts. It takes guts, my friend.
It takes
Love the Stones.
guts.
And it was the debut. This album was the debut of this symbol, which is universally associated with them
Iconic.
now. It
Yep.
was not around till Sticky Fingers. So you got the whole package. You got the iconic cover, you got the iconic logo, you got a new guitarist throwing a couple solos in on a great song.
Who
It's
came up
everything.
with the tongue logo?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Storm did. I'm just
Did he?
saying it.
Oh,
No,
no.
he was everywhere,
You're just
man. He
making
was
it up
on.
now, Jake.
Storm was everywhere during that time. I mean, he did all the most iconic Floyd covers. You know, they had him do everything.
All right, so I am next. This album cover is a little off, but there's a reason. Because it is the
Older Phil.
older Phil. So it was kind of cool how they want to flip me. Um, so this was the reissue on Clear Wax or Crystal Clear, whatever you want to call it. But Phil, who was bigger than Phil in the '80s, guys? Who I can think of two other people that were bigger than Phil in the '80s. But Phil was everywhere, um, and we know that Michael Jackson was number one. But Phil sneaks in the top three, guys. You might think of all these other people, but Phil sneaks into the top three. Um, this one, here's one of those first songs, first tracks. Studio is the first song on this album. And there we go. So that's why Phil looks a little bit older. Not as old as he looks now, um, but Phil is definitely going to show up again in the future. This is not the only time you're going to see Phil here. Um, this one appeared in 1985. This one just put him way over the top on being one of the big, I guess it's pop rock, soul. There's a little bit of everything in his voice.
Iconic drum
Um,
fills on
and
these things.
and if you watch like his live album was just sometimes you get a live album and it's the vocals are amazing and it's almost as good as the studio recordings on the But Seriously Hits live. If you
Yeah.
listen to those albums, those songs are amazing. But he's just an amazing artist. You got One More Night, Don't Lose My Number, Take Me Home, um, and of course this did reach number one on the Billboard 200. So Studio reached number one.
Didn't it have like 17 singles or something like that?
This
Yeah.
one,
I mean, it was everywhere.
yeah.
Everywhere.
One More Night and Don't Lose My Number are the ones that charted. One More Night and Don't Lose My Number charted peaked at number 4. This was produced by Phil and good old Hugh. Padham.
Yeah.
Produced this album. And if I spelled his name wrong or said his name wrong, well, he can come on the show and correct us if you want.
He's British, so he's probably not watching.
Yeah.
He might email you.
And this was kind of the peak in his career, his solo career. Because this the last one of his. What was I wish I looked up the order.
He had another big one after that, but seriously, that was another mega seller.
Hello, I Must Be Going
Was before that, and then yeah.
But again, he brought another level to pop music back in the day. Back in the day.
Well, here's the other thing we were talking. Somebody said, like, well, you asked Sean, like, who was bigger. The thing about Phil was he was putting something out every single year of the 80s. You could
look at Philip Bailey, Easy Lover.
Yeah, and there was
soundtracks with Against All Odds and Groovy Kind of Love off of Against All Odds and Buster.
Yeah,
he was pumping out records and there was great songs in every one of them. I mean, every once in a while, some artists when they pump out 10 records, there's one record that's like one or two good songs, but he consistently had 4 or 5 songs on every album that you knew and loved. And it's definitely a must-have. It's something I've always had. I've had multiple copies of this. I don't know how many copies you guys have had. This is the copy I'm now with. But always this is the 2016 remaster. and he won a Grammy for One More Night, right? One More Night, um, which just another great song.
Yeah, his videos, Cheryl, in the '80s were great. Even the stuff he did with Genesis, off of Invisible Touch, Land of Confusion, those videos with the puppets, those things were hilarious.
You see, I remember those more than Phil on his own, for the most part. I remember those more, but I remember. I just actually I do remember all of these because
Well,
he was in my main collection. I mean, these were the ones things I was listening. This Huey and who God knows who else, but
what I liked about Phil Solo was you'd get some of that Memphis sound with the horns on some of those songs too, and he threw a little of that R&B sound on his solo albums.
You know what I
Which, of
like
course, that's
about
not appropriate for a Genesis album, but
yeah, that's what I love about Phil's solo stuff. Is I
Mhm.
feel like when he went solo, you get to know the man. Right? He writes Face Value. Guy went through a divorce. I mean, a lot of those songs
and then
weren't
then he
half
got
the
married,
song.
then divorced again, then remarried the first person he divorced.
So a lot of his songs, a lot of his stuff was pain, right? But that's kind of what I liked about his solo stuff compared to Genesis. A lot of those songs, you could totally tell, like they're not Genesis songs, but you get to know the man. And that's kind of what I liked about his solo effort. I feel like you really got to find him out. Coming from when he was Genesis, when he started as a drummer and was just singing background vocals with Peter Gabriel, to coming out from behind the kit and now being in the forefront and now being vulnerable in writing songs, for himself. So
Yeah.
it's no surprise to me that he was everywhere and was selling. I think it really hit something with the audience.
Well, we had a couple comments from the chat. One, Mike commented about Face Value is arguably better, and there was a pretty big argument amongst us this week about that.
I
And,
concur. Face Value I think, is better.
Yeah, somebody name a song other than "In the Air" or "I Missed Again."
So here's the
I don't agree.
I will agree with you. I think that No Jacket Required has more songs on it than Face Value.
Mhm.
But sometimes, I mean, having both those songs, right, In the Air Tonight is iconic.
Yeah, yeah.
What's iconic on on No Jacket Required? They're good songs,
Mhm.
but sometimes iconic trumps everything else.
True.
I don't know. Not when you you got to listen to the whole record, Jake. I think you want some other stuff on there. I agree with Cheryl. "Hello, I Must Be Going" is my favorite.
Well, I told you my favorite Phil Collins solo song is "I Don't Care Anymore." That's my favorite song.
Mhm.
Again, it's the power drum fills that make that song.
And that is on that album. So let me see. Let me get Cheryl off here. Okay.
All right, and the thing I've been noticing with these albums, because with selling records, you spend so much time test playing, and you don't do pleasure listening. And this listening was definitely, yeah, I had to listen to it, but it made me remember how much I loved the album the first time.
Yeah.
And my wife's been watching these videos, and I've had to take CDs out of like storage because she's starting to re-listen to all her music again. And that was brought upon us talking last week with the albums and stuff. And so she is watching the podcast, and then she's reliving some of this stuff that she hasn't listened to in a while. And us doing this has made me really focus on albums I haven't listened to in a while. And it's kind of refreshing that I've got to go back to these, because again, I'm always test playing and listening, and I'm listening for cracks and skips and whatever, and not the enjoyment of the record, and doing this, it's really the enjoyment of the record again, and that's kind of what it's all about for everyone.
Yeah.
um
That is exciting. When I was I had a lot of homework to do this week when well, you'll hear about the Neil Young thing. But I had to play Sticky Fingers one more time. I'd already done the one listen. I said, nope, we're going one more time on this album. And that took 37 minutes or whatever it takes. So it has been fun.
I haven't listened to it in a while, and now I'm excited to listen to it again.
Yeah.
So the next, I don't know, guys have anything else to say about you guys' experience? Anyone in the crowd? Again, these aren't the top and the best ones, but things that we think you guys should listen to. So what have you thought so far? Do you kind of agree with some of these? And it's not really agree, but maybe, hey, maybe I'm going to give this one a try. Anybody here going to now take out this, maybe look at their Phil Collins and give it a listen, or one of the ones we talked to? I'm sure that some of you might be doing that.
You know what I love seeing? Yeah. I love seeing everybody in the chat talking about Phil. That's what I love seeing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of the primary objectives, right? Is more engagement in the community. And, I don't think anybody here tonight's had to buy anything or pay for shipping. We're just having a good time talking about music. So this is, hopefully people view us as when you need to get away from whatnot, and maybe not spend some money, come over on Thursday evenings and hang. We're here.
Yeah. And then maybe it'll help you revisit what you already own, and you don't have to go buy something new because you're going to revisit some titles you haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, after you get done with the show, you will go buy 10 or 12 records, but hey, don't think about it that way.
Meteora,
Linkin Park. I believe it's on the list. We've got a long list for consideration. One of the things we are doing with the early stuff, like we did with Pink Floyd, we did with Phil Collins, there will be multiple Pink Floyd. There's likely going to be more Phil Collins. The ones we're coming out with first are the ones we believe are the most accessible albums. Like if you were going to get somebody into an artist, which one would you give them, to get them started?
Yeah. Terry, not the greatest movie, but a great song.
And you can pick it up for cheap. That's the other thing, is you can get that pretty cheap. A great selling album and not a lot. So the next segment is I guess they're having some kind of discussion about Neil Young, and we'll see how that turns out.
Yes.
I'm sure that we'll 100% agree with everything Scott says, much like we did last week with the Van Halen 1984.
I thought we had consensus. We had consensus, right? Everybody agreed.
So Scott, you paid Terry off because Terry was with me on 84, and then he changes.
Well, Brian's with me. I got a message this week saying I was absolutely right about the Van Halen.
Was it Terry? Was Terry or Brian? Terry, were you with me originally on 1984? Was it Brian? One of you was originally with me, and then you changed. Somebody got to you.
Hey, it's amazing if you throw some free records people's way. Jake?
You still haven't sold me on the 90s stuff. Terry, there's some good stuff. There's some good stuff that we'll be bringing out. But the two records that I started off with, you should, if you don't have them, you should. They're amazing.
That Kings of Leon is, if you haven't listened to that album, you should. I mean, all of them ones. What was the 90 ones tonight? Kings of Leon, Wallflowers.
So Kings of Leon was 2008. We did my 90s was August and everything after.
Yeah.
And Wallflowers, Bringing Down the Horse.
And I had Dave Matthews Crash.
You had Dave.
Yeah.
All right. Those three albums. That's 94 to.
Let's see if we can agree on these Neil Young selection.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how we got here this week.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody knows my disagreement with Scott's top 5 on the Van Halen records. There were some that I was in agreement with. I think he just, I think he got a little scared and wanted to be a little, just politically correct and just go with, the staples. We all know 1984 is the Van Halen album of albums. It sold the most out of all their prior records. It has the most hits. Scott will tell you otherwise. But Drop Dead Legs is a banger of a song on that record, probably one of the best on the record. So that led me into a conversation with Scott, because I was fuming on how he botched it. And I said, listen, he's like, what are we going to do top 5, Jake? I'm like, I've got a great top 5 for you because you can't think of anything right now. I want top 5 Neil Young records all time, go. And his immediate response was, Jake, Neil Young's got like 57 albums. And my response was, exactly. Do your homework, get to work. Now, he and I did speak in depth about this, and we basically agreed with about 8 records for sure that could go within that top 5. Now, he hasn't told me what the top 5 is. He's even given me some honorable mention. I'm just going to go on the record right now and say, I have a feeling, and it's a gut feeling, and Scott, you can redeem yourself if On the Beach is number 1. And I present to you, Scott Knight, your Neil Young top 5 records of the night.
It's always a pleasure to disappoint you, Jake. And I think, there's going to be some discussion about this. It was a hard one to do. And I do appreciate Jake's help because we did pare it down to probably 12 or 13 albums that we both agreed needed to be looked at. So I won't always do this, but when somebody has 57 records, I feel like it is kind of rude not to mention some other good ones. So at the end, I will have an honorable mention. So I guarantee you somebody's out there. I'm not picking your record for the top 5. Don't be offended. I don't think it's not that I don't think it's great. It's just personally, these are the ones I like, and I spent a lot of time this week I even reevaluated. I think midweek I talked to Jake, and then I went back and listened some more, and this is what I came up with. So here we go. Neil Young, top 5 albums. Number 5, Zuma.
Come
1975. Singles were Looking for Love, Stupid Girl, but the best songs are Don't Cry No Tears, and of course the iconic Cortez the Killer.
Cortez the Killer. It's top 3, Scott.
It's number 5, Jake. All right. Next up, Neil Young, After the Gold Rush. So this was May of 1969. One of my favorite Neil Young songs is on here, Cinnamon Girl. Just great. Everybody knows Down by the River and Cowgirl in the Sand. So, yeah, you got a lot of the Neil Young distortion and fuzziness on this record. And I will say, I should have let off of this. Everybody has a Neil Young listening profile. Mine gears towards more the amps turned up, the fuzz box in effect.
I agree.
And Neil just ripping on the guitar, even if he misses a note or two. The guy just has an emotional bond with the guitar. I love it.
I agree.
All right, so we're getting down to it now here. Number 3. Everybody knows this is Nowhere. So we got After the Gold Rush, Southern Man, Only Love Can Break Your Heart, which was a single, and only, what is that? When You Dance, I Can Really Love. What is the name of that song? My note. No, that's not on this. So, and Cowgirl in the Sand, great song on this. So it was tough, but I think this is solidly falling in at number 3. All right. I'm almost afraid to do this one.
It's tough because, I already know you got 2 left, and I know one of them's going to be on it. Yeah.
Number 2, Harvest.
That's a lot of people's number 1 right there.
I acknowledge that. All right, so you got
agree with it, be acknowledged.
Iconic songs on here. Harvest, Heart of Gold, the only number 1 record, the only top 40 charting single for Neil Young.
Over Old Man?
Yeah, Old Man did not chart. Old Man?
Really?
Yeah, Old Man is on here. Great song. The Needle and the Damage Done, beautiful song.
Awesome song.
And I threw Alabama on here too because it started a little bit of controversy with a little band down south called
Little
Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Skinner.
But you can't go wrong. You know, I had to pick, and I'll explain my number one pick. So that was number two.
Bring it.
Number
Let's see
one,
it. On the
coming from
beach. Let's go.
coming from the year 1989,
Oh my God.
Freedom.
What?
Yes.
I'm not familiar with that one at all, so I'm gonna have to visit that.
All right. So I think to make my case, I would say go out and YouTube the Rockin' in the Free World Saturday Night Live on YouTube. That was after this was released. That song is on here. My one criticism of this album is they started out with an acoustic live version of Rockin' in the Free World. That's kind of a lame way to start the album out. And Rockin' in the Free World, the electric rockin' version is last. They should have led the album off with Rockin' in the Free World. Should have been the lead song on the album. But Crime of the Century, great song. El Dorado with the acoustic and the electric, it's just amazing. Somebody, No More, Too Far Gone. So what is that? That's 6 great songs. And when I counted up, no other album had 6 great songs. And I don't know that any album had a song better than Rockin' in the Free World. That song is amazing. And Neil, I mean, it's right. It's a top 3 or 4 Neil Young song. Rockin' in the Free World is a top 10 all-time rock song for me. So I know there's going to be a little controversy. I can take it, but
We're having like a dueling top 5 right now.
The only thing I ask you is before you criticize too much, go back and listen to Harvest again. All right, Jake, I see you, you little pest.
Number one, On the Beach. But I liked Jim's comment because I told Scott the same thing. I was like, Scott, just go get Decade.
Yeah, well, okay. we'll talk. So here you go. We're not doing any compilations. We're doing studio. So here's my honorable mention, just so you know. They were listened to at least once, multiple times, in most cases. On the Beach, 1974. A personal favorite of mine, which will probably surprise people, or you might not know it, Are You Passionate, 2002. It had an R&B kind of feel to it. I loved it, you know. Harvest Moon, 1992. When I went back and listened to it, that's the one album I said, that album isn't as good as I thought it was. You know, it is an acoustic, which acoustic Neil is not my favorite Neil, but I don't think it's not Son of Harvest, in my opinion.
You know why I love acoustic Neil?
What?
Because it showcases how amazing not only a very dirty, sloppy lead guitarist that he is with his solos, but it also highlights how great of a rhythm player he is. He does it both. He does it both wonderfully.
Yeah. And lastly, on the honorable mention, Ragged Glory, 1990. So I really enjoyed that album. All right. I intentionally was ignoring the chat so you people wouldn't distract me. I'm now reading it. See what we got here.
So your logic for number one makes a lot of sense because again, like when we're looking through the Kiss albums, there might be 1 or 2 good songs, so it's hard to pick a song where that record there has a lot of great songs on it.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Well, and that's why On the Beach does not fit my listening profile very well, right? You know, there's not a lot of Fuzzy Neil on the Beach, you know.
But it's got On the Beach. That's one of the it's one of the most chill songs with an amazing solo that just, I don't know, it just gets you, it just puts you in the mood.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a good album. It's good. It's just there's nothing, you know, all these other albums had multiple songs that grab me. I enjoy On the Beach, and like I like Amelin's Blues on there. I think it's a good song, and but when I took this seriously, Jake's challenge this week, and I listened to a lot of freaking Neil Young, and I tried to be intellectually honest with myself. What did I really like? What did I really like? And I was kind of keeping score and going back. And I think at one point in the week, I said Zuma might be number one, Jake. At the end of the week,
Yeah, I thought.
it was
Look, I
number
thought.
five.
I thought Zuma and on. I knew that you probably weren't going to go On the Beach because I told you like Zuma and On the Beach to me. I mean, very similar, right? There are some similarities. I think what I love about Zuma is Zuma does have a little more crunch,
Yeah.
like I told you, than On the Beach does. But I also like what On the Beach has to offer. It's just a completely different album compared to a lot of the earlier crunch that he
Hello,
had
Janet.
on some of the earlier records, right? So I can understand it not being your number one. I knew obviously Harvest would be top two.
Yeah.
And I would say 90% of people would probably put Harvest as number one. So I will say this. I do like the fact that there's a record above it. I like the fact that it's number two and not number one. It's not the
Yeah, and that's
correct.
and again, it's hard to dismiss the quality songwriting on Harvest. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But when I sit down, which one do I really like and enjoy? I'd say a lot of people have not probably given that a fair listen, or not listened to it in a long time. Yeah, Rockin' in the Free World, all-time classic. Listen to El Dorado. That song is up there with anything
I
Neil
agree.
Young did.
I agree.
Now, is that album readily available? The one you have, or your number one?
I don't know. The OGs are kind of hard to get. I got the archive. So this came in one of the Neil Young archives. I bought the box set. So
Oh, to the box
Yeah.
set.
This Ragged Glory that I have is a
Here it is.
1990
Yeah,
original.
So yeah, you can get it for about $35.
yeah,
Came
and
out
you
in
should.
2024.
So what Jake was showing Decade, and I think my wife chimed in and said, "I said that." She said, "Why not just get Decade?" Yes, if you were sending people to, go by Decade, and then you can buy a couple other ones. So you should own Decade plus some of these. You don't need all 57. You don't even need half of the 57. You could probably have a great Neil Young collection with
OPS
about 15
54.
albums, and you'd be set.
I concur. Listen, I think everybody here can agree. Let's be honest. Trans is probably Neil Young's number one record. Okay? Everybody loves Trans. You'll always find it at a record store. It's always going to be there. Trans, and then oh gosh, what's the other one?
I challenge someone to collect all 58.
Hey, well,
And
I'm
Sure.
going to get Trans, and I'm going to preview it one night.
hey, let's be honest. Nobody in the history of recorded music has put out more crappy albums than Neil Young. He's the Guinness Book World Record holder for bad albums.
Trans might be the worst. Landing on Water, I need to listen to again.
It's horrible. I mean, he's prolific, and I a lot of people like Ryan Adams does the same thing. Get a bunch of songs, put them out. They just crank them.
Stephen
Yeah.
Stills, same.
Yeah.
Stephen Stills, the same. Wrote some great songs too, but a lot of crap.
Yeah, and there's an interesting story about Neil Young went from Reprise Records, where he had that great run of records, and he went over to Geffen, got a big contract from David Geffen, and immediately started making terrible records. Like he did Everybody's Rockin', that's the one with him in the big leisure shoot, and I think Landing on Water. He put out 5 terrible albums. It was so bad. David Geffen sued him because the records were so bad. And then they finally settled that, and he went back to Reprise. And what does he do? Rockin' in the Free World. So do you think that a fist did not go through a wall somewhere in David Geffen's house the first time he heard Rockin' in the Free World?
Definitely
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me with Neil Young. I think Neil's one of those guys where it's like, look, hey, if I can stick it to the man any way I can.
Yep.
All right, so if you
I
guys have any artists that you want to challenge the top 5,
Yeah.
put in
Any
some
suggestions for a top 5?
you can message us through
Yeah.
any of our social media or on Discord or whatever. But if you can suggest one and maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't. Maybe they'll change your mind and say, you know what, maybe that is the best one. But 1994 is still the best one.
Well, I'll just say what I told Jake.
Thank you, Sean.
I was trying to be compassionate with Jake and understand where he was coming from. I said, Jakey, I know you were sitting in the back of your minivan. Mommy strapped you into the car seat, gave you a juice box, and Jump come on, and your whole world changed.
For the record, my mother had a Cadillac Eldorado. That thing was a land yacht.
Yeah, he was indignant. We didn't have a minivan, and there was no juice boxes.
My mom had a white Cadillac Eldorado. That thing was a beast.
So Janet,
I think Neil Young, Janet. I think Neil Young always just did whatever he wanted to do. I mean,
hell yeah.
I think it was coincidence, and David Geffen just happened to suffer from that.
Well, you get those required albums out of the way, and then you're kind of free.
But I'm going to give Neil credit, man, because he definitely, I will say this about Neil Young. He had no problems, stepping outside the box or thinking outside the box, if you will, right? Like he was a huge fan of Devo. Like he loved what Devo was doing, even collaborated with Devo and jammed with him. So he was really into a lot of the sounds, the late 70s going into the early 80s. So even though we came up with a lot of crap, I can't blame the guy for wanting to take a chance and try something new. And if it's, crap, it's crap.
Yeah.
Well, you might see D'Angelo, you may see some country in the future. Because we're not finished adding stuff to the 500 list. And, I think stuff like this should be on it.
Oh, you got that today.
Yeah.
All right.
I think maybe this is something we should consider.
Yeah, we haven't figured out how to handle country on the 500. We've agreed jazz is not in there, compilations, soundtracks, but country is probably a little bit of a different matter.
I'm taking no fences over self-titled.
Yeah, I think no fences is a better record. So, John, there's Willie Nelson, there's Johnny Cash. I mean, I know for sure Johnny Cash would have a list on album listed on the live albums he must own. So
yeah, how many Johnny Cash albums are there? And I know Willie's had like 99 or something.
A lot. I mean, you've got all his early Sun recordings. I still think Live at Folsom Prison is probably like my number one.
Does
Cash.
The Gizzard, Lizard, Wizard, Gizzard guy have more albums?
Yeah, but
or is it Live at it's Folsom Prison or San Quentin, wherever it was.
Folsom first.
Folsom first, and then San Quentin later. Speaking of, I like BB King at San Quentin as well.
Yeah. Well, so we hear you. Give us a little time to discuss. We want to. I think we can do some justice to country. I grew up in a very country music household. My mom loves country music, and in the 90s, I'll admit, when I got a little burned out on grunge, I flipped over and was digging some country stuff of that era. So I know the Garth, I know the Brooks and Dunn, I know the Trisha Yearwood, Martina McBride, Faith Hill, Patty Loveless, and there were some great albums. There was a lot of country is more polluted with not so great albums, but there are some great ones.
My mom jammed out to Mickey Gilley and Ronnie Millsap.
Yeah,
a lot of Ronnie.
And I'm excited about Mary Chapin Copper's other albums are been released on vinyl.
Come on, one of the greatest. I mean, that should be in the 500 if we do include country. Come on.
Because I'm thinking about picking one of those up. I just remember.
Hey, don't forget Possum. Don't forget old Possum. Don't forget George Jones.
On the one you sold.
Grandmother loves George.
Yeah. Did George have a great album, or did we grab a compilation of George Jones?
Hmm?
Did George Jones have a great album, or is it more the case you grab a comp by?
Well, I think a
George
lot of
Jones?
the country artists really back then, I don't think it was really based more like on albums per se. It was really based more on singles. And I'm more of an old school country western guy. Like I will listen to George Jones. I love Patsy Cline. Um,
Travis Tritt was somebody I listened
you
to.
know, when uh my aunts loved George Strait, so George Strait was he. I mean, George Strait was basically
George
Garth
had
Brooks, right?
he had great albums, but when you
George
talk about
had
George
good
Jones,
albums.
when you talk about George Jones, it was more 45.
It was
and then
more
those rolled
singles.
into compilations.
No Show Jones. Yeah, he had some substance abuse problems.
He stopped loving her
Wasn't he-
today.
in his hometown, he just always was driving around in a lawnmower tractor all the time. I think.
Yeah,
that-
Mary Chapin. There was the '90s had some great female country.
Sometimes you're the windshield.
Reba?
Sometimes you're the bug. Come on, it's just.
Yeah, not a big Reba fan myself, but that was my mom's favorite, Reba. So, or is my mom's favorite. She's still.
So yeah,
with
we'll
us.
definitely look to adding some country. But again, think about how many things there that you can add, and then it's the list is 1,000.
Yeah,
So,
well, we should be on the air for like 50 years. Then we got plenty of material
Yeah,
to
so
cover.
we got to try to figure out: are we going to do like the Merle Haggards, or is it something more modern that really influenced not just country, but like Garth Brooks transcends? He became everything. I mean,
He also became Chris Gaines.
yeah, that was short lived.
We'll give him a
But
pass.
more
on that.
albums that kind of
Not
really expand the horizon for everybody. And Garth was definitely that person.
But hey, look, kudos to Garth for doing that. That was a big Neil Young move right there. Tried something different, thinking outside the box, alter ego, it bombed.
So
But-
you had Garth Brooks doing the Neil Young, I'm going to try everything, and you had George Strait doing the AC/DC. We know what works. We're just going to keep on doing it.
Yeah, man, you stick with what got you there.
All right.
Well, we're kind of already been doing it, but this is the question and answer part of the program. So if you
Yep.
have any questions or just shout it out. You guys are just as part of you guys.
Chat's
are
been
just as
great
important in
tonight,
the
by the
show
way.
as Gonzo is.
Yeah, you guys, we hope as we go along, you guys can help us get a few more people in here. We know more people are going to watch it after the chat live stream, but that's one of the things we really wanted to do was to have it a little bit of back and forth. And the day's coming where we're going to ask some of you guys to join in on us, join with us as the fourth panelist. And but the show is like it's like a jar of Play-Doh. It's not completely formed yet, so we're open to feedback. I think we hit the right number of albums to do only 12 albums. I think the top 5 works. What else would you guys like us to do? As long as it's within our, we don't want to get up in front of you guys and fake the funk. It's got to be something we know and we feel comfortable doing.
And I'm working on the cough, guys.
I did not, Mike.
For my cough, and I had a nice tea, and the cough went away.
There you go.
I've seen some videos of Willie lately in the tour, and it almost seemed like everything I heard is his volume was turned down a little too low. But it's always nice. I regret not going to see Willie with Dylan and family because this is probably the last time you're gonna get a chance to see Willie performing in any way, shape, or form. You get out there.
The smart thing to do is, this is advice for you younger people. Don't wait that late. Don't wait till they're in their 70s. Go do it. I wish I saw, Springsteen in the 80s or 90s. And not that he doesn't put on a great show and he's still in pretty good physical condition. But if you want to see the full throttle, I was watching that Rockin' in the Free World video from 1989, Saturday Night Live. And I read a little bit of the backstory on that. So Neil Young was not big on performing on TV. He didn't like to do those things. He thought it never captured the essence of his live performance. So he agreed to do Saturday Night Live, and in true Neil fashion, they did not during the rehearsal. They did not play "Rocking Into the Free World." They played "Effing Up," another song, and so what Neil did is for 30 minutes before he went on the air, he had his personal trainer work him out. So he came out full sweat, full loosened up, and that's a great video for TV. There's not a good version, so it's pretty grainy, but I mean Neil is all over the stage, and Neil Young could not do that today. He could not do what he did on that Saturday Night Live performance, which is okay, but that's why I say see your favorites in their prime if you can.
I love Keep on Rocking on the Free World when he was there doing it with Eddie Vedder. I thought that was an amazing performance as well.
Yeah, it was. That was some music award show that they did that on.
Exactly, Angela.
I think it's when Eddie Vedder just went through the tambourine. That tambourine got shattered.
Like, I regret not going to see Tony Bennett, and I had an opportunity to see Frank Sinatra once, and I didn't do it.
I had an opportunity. I saw Paul McCartney in Dallas, came back home, saw The Who perform their 50th. And I was that close getting tickets for the Eagles and Tom Petty. Did not. Glenn Frey and Tom Petty both pass away not long after, and did not get to see them. And I regret that.
Yeah,
because I've never seen the Eagles. I'd never seen Tom Petty. My brother got to see him tour during the Full Moon Fever. So my brother got to see him like prime Petty, but I would have loved to have seen both the Eagles and Tom Petty. I regret not going. So I agree. If they're in town, don't wait.
Best 70s singer songwriter.
is that a question?
Yeah, it is.
Terry, it's I mean, you could put Elton in there, Elton John in there. You could put Billy Joel in there.
Linda Ronstadt.
You can put Linda in there. You could put
Linda Ronstadt, songwriter,
singer.
Gosh, she could sing. Beautiful voice. But I think Elton John and Billy Joel might be tops.
Trying to think if there's somebody.
If you take Bob Dylan, because Bob Dylan was still, I mean, it wasn't his, 60s folk stuff, but he was coming into
he still had some
his 70s
stuff.
sound. So I would still consider Dylan. I'd put Dylan there in the 70s as well.
Yeah, and Petty hadn't quite hit his Damn the Torpedoes and stuff. That's good, but he took it to another level in the 80s with his songwriting.
All right, I'll go with Bruce.
Bruce too. Yeah, he had all the early albums up to what?
Well, The River was 1980, I believe.
So you had Darkness, On the Edge of Town, down. So
yeah,
Darkness, Born to Run, Greetings, Wild, the Innocent, and the East Street Shuffle. I feel like I'm missing a Springsteen album, but. So yeah, he had the when I listened to early Springsteen, I kind of like Greetings and Asbury Park, Greetings from Asbury Park and Wild and the Innocent. I felt like he's trying too hard on the songwriting, and I feel like with Born to Run, he kind of started to hit his stride as a songwriter. I think he was trying to be Dylan on the first two. That's just my personal opinion. So
I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah, that's what he knew.
Dylan would be the only
Henley.
one.
Oh yeah, Henley. Yeah,
Henley, dude. Yeah, I put Don there.
All right. Any other questions? Because we're pretty much at the wrap up time. We're running a little bit late again, but again, we did much better. And again, we'll be fine tuning this as we go. We'll get better at it. And
Gordon Lightfoot is on that list.
Gordon Lightfoot, definitely.
100%.
But again, this is we could probably do a whole show on this, and maybe we'll do some individual shows, because again, with this format, some of those things maybe we'll cover it and then just post the video of some of these kind of conversations, separate from the show, because there's a lot of great topics and things we could be talking about. And Bob Seger was no slouch. Steve Goodman mostly wrote in the 70s.
Croce, that's a good one. Croce, yeah.
Yeah, and Steve Goodwin was
Jackson Brown.
interesting one. Jackson, we had
Only
Jackson
if that
Brown.
airport would have gotten rid of the darn tree,
Yeah.
we would still have Jim.
Well,
planes and celebrities don't mix.
Sean, also on the next episode, I have a family event next weekend that I have to leave on Thursday midday at. So we will not have a show next Thursday, but we'll be back strong, ready to go for the following week.
Yes.
So we'll have a new 12. Gonzo will think of another way to make me look bad on the internet by picking a very hard top 5 for me to do. Although I could say I think he threw the biggest gauntlet he could possibly throw down with the Neil Young.
No,
top
I've got another one. It's coming.
Another one.
We'll discuss it after end of show.
Ooh. Yeah, so definitely want to thank you guys for hanging out. I think that's pretty much all we have to say. And I will be doing an after party on so you guys know where to find me.
All right, take care, everybody. Thanks.
Have a great night,
Peace.
guys.